Well, coming into another offseason, Jesper Bratt still does not have a contract, and this is the third time in 4 years. It seems like Jesper Bratt is making this much harder than it has to be, and some players are a little fed up with it. The fan base is fed up with it. What's it going to take to re-sign Jesper Bratt? The Devils do have some options. We have a lot to discuss in today's episode of Locked On Devils. Buckle up, everybody.
You're Locked On Devils, your daily podcast on the New Jersey Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi, this is Bryce Salvador, and you're Locked On Devils with Trey Matthews.
Scores! Oh, Stevens stepped up, nailed it. Brodor's got the puck. What a shot. The Devils win the Stanley Cup.
Alrighty now, what is up, New Jersey? Welcome back to the Locked On Devils podcast here on Locked On Network. I'm your host, college hockey play-by-play announcer, Devils writer for Pucks and Pitchforks, and also part-time credentialed media member, Trey Matthews. Okay, I have left you guys in the dark long enough. It's time for me to address the elephant in the room, and that is the ongoing process of the New Jersey Devils organization trying to re-sign Jesper Bratt long-term. It's safe to say that the road to trying to get Jesper Bratt to sign on that dotted line has been tedious, frustrating, and it seems like we've been doing this song and dance routine for like a year or so now. But before we get into the nit and grit of all that, I first want to provide you guys a soundbite courtesy of Jack Hughes, because Hughes was recently asked about some pending free agents for the Devils. And when expressing his opinion, he seemingly threw some shade toward a particular player. Check it out.
Jack, you got some guys with expiring contracts, Timo, Jesper, Eric, you kind of nudging them like, let's get this done, run it back.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not like the GM by any means, so it's not up to me, but I think I know they want to come back. I know, but at the same time, it's, you got to get it done too. You can't just talk about wanting to be in New Jersey. If you want to be in New Jersey, you got to just sign the deal, So those guys are obviously big parts of our team, and we'd like to have them back. And, they all did a great job for us, tougher for Timo coming in halfway through the year. But, Bratter and Halsey, they were staple guys for us all year, and we want them back. And obviously Timo, we'd like him back too.
Okay, so I'm no detective, but notice how that question was framed. I don't know who asked the question, but the reporter basically listed three names. The reporter listed Timo Meier, Jesper Bratt, and Erik Haula. Now, Erik Haula is set to become an unrestricted free agent, and Haula has recently said that he wants to remain with the Devils organization. He even stated during his exit interview before he was slated to speak with the media, he was actually in Fitzgerald's office trying to negotiate a new deal, or just trying to say, like, look, I want to remain with the Devils organization for a few more years. He even stated that he was waiting for the phone call from Fitzgerald to try to hammer out a new deal. As for Timo Meier, Meier has never explicitly said that he wants to remain with the Devils organization. He has had nothing but positive things to say, but he hasn't gone out of his way to say, like, look, I want to remain with the organization long term. This is my home, and I love the organization, yada, yada, yada. Whereas for Jesper Bratt, I think this is where Jack Hughes is throwing the shade, because, like I said moments ago, it seems like we've been doing this song and dance routine with Jesper Bratt for quite some time now. Because if you guys need a refresher course, here's what happened in the overall journey as to where we're at right now with Jesper Bratt. So about a year ago, in May 2022, Jesper Bratt appeared on Speak of the Devil podcast. He revealed that he wanted to finish what he started with the Devils organization. And I think like a week or two later, there was some rumors circulating saying that Jesper Bratt had signed his long-term deal with the Devils organization, and it was going to take a few days for the Devils organization to make it official. A few days goes by, nothing. A few weeks goes by, nothing. And basically, Devils fans were sitting on pins and needles because we didn't know what was going to happen with Jesper Bratt. And basically, right before the arbitration hearing was to take place, because now a few weeks goes by, a few months goes by, now the Devils are forced to make some sort of deal with Jesper Bratt and his agency. And basically, the two sides came to agreement of a 1-year extension that was going to pay Jesper Bratt annually of $5.45 million. Basically, that's not the extension that we had in mind, but at least we could sleep well at night knowing that we had Jesper Bratt for one more year, because Jesper Bratt wanted to bet on himself, because I think he wanted to get similar money to someone like Kevin Fiala, who was able to get a new deal with the LA Kings once he was traded out there. So for Jesper Bratt, I respect the fact that he wanted to try to get out there and prove himself. And I was a little hesitant to sign him to a lengthy extension in the first place, because Jesper Bratt did have a good showing during the 2021-2022 season. But the overall question was, could he repeat it this year? And I think that's where the two sides were conflicting. We'll talk about that a little later in the episode. Now the new year comes around. It's the start of the 2022-2023 season. At the beginning of the year, Jesper Bratt once again said that he wanted to remain with the Devils organization long term, and basically fans were like, okay, we'll wait until January 1st and maybe he'll sign his extension till then. Okay, well, it's been a few months since January 1st and still nothing. Now, obviously, Tom Fitzgerald has revealed that the negotiating process with Jesper Bratt slowed down during the course of the playoffs because that was best for the team. You have to focus on the playoffs because something bigger is at stake. And I get that. And now fans are just wondering, what's the contract situation like with Jesper Bratt at this very moment? Well, Tom Fitzgerald spoke on it during his exit interview, and here's what he had to say when asked about it.
We paused the talks prior to the playoffs, which I think was the right thing to do. There's definitely progression for sure. There's definitely a framework of a deal to be done long term if Jesper wants that. Jesper knows exactly what that framework looks like. I know Jesper wants to be a Devil long term, and so do we. He had a tremendous year. Nobody doubted that he wouldn't. He did. He's part of the fabric here, part of the core. We want to get this done. I don't anticipate contentious negotiation. I think his agent knows where we're at. So probably put the ball back in his court, and we'll touch base here soon. I haven't yet. Like I said earlier, this is Game 5 loss is still fresh. Going through what we went through this weekend and really rolling right into our scouting meetings. The business side of it, we'll get back on track here shortly.
Jesper Bratt was also asked about the contract negotiating process, and here's what he said during his exit interview.
Jesper, Tom has talked about, how last season your contract negotiation was a little challenging. Do you anticipate it'll be challenging this summer, and what are your thoughts on free agency?
Yeah, I kind of put that to the side a little bit. Me and Tom have had a good relationship. We have talked all the time, and I feel like we have the trust in each other, and I've been clear since day one that I think this is a great place to play, and a place that I call home, and I'm so excited about what this team and franchise did, and this is obviously something and a ride that I want to be a part of. And I think the contract negotiation will get settled somehow, and obviously some contracts are a little bell, some are not, but I have full confidence in my agent and in Tom that we'll get something done.
Now, according to James Nichols, he brought up an old article that he wrote late in November, and he basically said that that once again, that the process has been slow. It's been ongoing. It's been frustrating. Obviously, it stopped during the course of the playoffs. And I think the target annually payment for Jesper Bratt was supposed to be around $8 million. But keep in mind, James Nichols also said this in his tweet, that article was from late November, and obviously a lot has happened since then. So Jesper Bratt, once again, was able to match his career high in points dating back to last year, but you also have to factor in Timo Meier. Timo Meier is also set to become a restricted free agent, and the Devils, once again, are now trying to build for the future because they're trying to contend, and they're a little ahead of their overall process. Now, the overall question is simply this: how much do you pay Jesper Bratt? Has his value gone up? Has it gone down? And now you have to factor in Timo Meier. Can the Devils afford to re-sign both Meier and Bratt long-term. And that's where we're sort of at a standstill. And I think that's why New Jersey Devils fans continue to be on pins and needles a little bit and just waiting for the confirmation that Jesper Bratt has signed long-term with the Devils organization. Now, Jesper Bratt is a good player, but I think the Devils also have some options on the table. When looking at Jesper Bratt as a player, here's how he finished the season. Once again, he was able to match his career high in points dating back to last year. So he finished off the regular season appearing in 82 games. He had 32 goals, 41 assists for a grand total of 73 points, and he finished off with a plus minus of plus 14. And he also had 22 power play points. And yeah, so for Jesper Bratt, the name of the game for him is offense. But the problem that I have for Jesper Bratt is that his weaknesses were very much exposed during the course of the playoffs, because when the playoffs came around, Jesper Bratt, his scoring went down tremendously. So in 12 playoff appearances, he had 1 goal. That was an empty netter goal for what it's worth, 5 assists for a grand total of 6 points. So the problem with Jesper Bratt is that he's a very good player and he knows how to rack up the numbers, and his numbers are good. I'm going to give credit where credit is due. He had a great performance during the course of the regular season, and I think betting on himself was the best outcome for him, because now he can say, like, look, I have shown that I could put up the numbers consistently. But here's the problem once again. Jesper Bratt got off to a fantastic start to the regular season because he was able to break the franchise record for longest point streak to open up a new season. But come late December, early January, that's when the numbers started to go a little down for Jesper Bratt, because he was like a point per game player alongside with Nico Hischier and Jesper Bratt. And when the All-Star game came rolling around and when we were trying to vote Jesper Bratt in, remember, I said in a prior episode that while Jesper Bratt's numbers are respectable, they don't really scream All-Star. And in order for him to reach the All-Star game, I know he has a cult following on Twitter. I know a lot of people do support Jesper Bratt. But the problem was, like, if he wanted to actually legitimately make the All-Star game, he would have had to rely too much on the advanced analytics. And that's sort of where I have a problem with Jesper Bratt, because when he's on one, he's really good. But when he's struggling, he doesn't really provide anything else. Yes, he's on the power play, but once again, that really centers around him scoring, getting assists, wherever the case might be, because Jesper Bratt, he's not going to give you many hits. He's not going to give you many blocks. Obviously, he's not going to do like the dirty work similar to like Erik Haula and Timo Meier. He's not going to do faceoffs. He's not going to provide you a lot of grit. He's not going to get into fights. He's not going to, once again, he's not going to do that dirty work similar to Erik Haula and Timo Meier, because one of the things I say for Haula and Meier is that if they're not scoring, at least they could do the other stuff to help the New Jersey Devils win. And once again, I think Jesper Bratt were really exposed come playoff time, and I think a lot of you can back me up in that case. So I'm not trying to diminish Jesper Bratt in any which sort of way, but at the same time, the money that he's trying to ask for, like $8 million annually, just to give you guys some reference, he would be paid more than Nico Hischier, our captain. Now, obviously, I said maybe you could aim at around $6 million, but that he would be being paid the same amount as Andre Palat, theoretically. So we'll talk about that a little later. So I talked about my overall feelings about Jesper Bratt during the course of the year, but I had the chance to ask him, like, how did he think he was utilized during the course of the year, especially when Timo Meier was added to the mix? Here was his response.
How well did you feel like that everyone's skill set was utilized, especially after Timo Meier was added to the roster? Because I know there was a lot of shufflings with the lineups, and obviously you, Hughes, and also Hischier got to get your respective reps. Once Timo Meier was added to the mix, how well do you think your skill set was utilized?
Well, I think Timo was an unbelievable player to come in for us as a team. He brings the little edge, the little swagger in his game that we kind of needed. I mean, he's a bigger, stronger guy that goes into the dirty areas, and I feel like in the playoff he didn't always get on the score sheet, but I think he was really contributing to the team and making a big impact on our team. And I mean, he's a great player. He made he made our team better by coming here. And I think that when you look at our lineup, I think there weren't a single guy in the team that I wasn't really feeling playing with. I feel like whoever you play with, you know you were going to get the work done, and it was just a great guy to add to the team.
We saw you match your career high from last season, and obviously the playoffs I'm sure didn't go as well as you would like or would have liked to hope. But what are some of the things you're going to work on come next season so that way you can surpass your career high and maintain that level of consistency?
Well, I think you can look at it from different perspectives. I think obviously we're playing a really good team in Carolina. They don't give you a lot. They're strong. They're probably playing their system the best in the league. I mean, they're one of the best defensive teams, and you're not going to get a lot of scoring chances against a team like that. And then it's all about capitalizing on your chances. So obviously, if I could have looked at a couple plays and have a little more poise and a little more attacking mindset, then maybe it could have made a difference. But at the same time, in the playoff game against Rangers, game 3, 4, and 5 against the Rangers, I was playing with Nico and Palat, and we shut down probably one of the best lines in the league with the Zibanejad line. So I take pride in those both part of my games, and obviously I maybe wanted to add a little more scoring touch in the playoff, but my goal was to help the team win, and that was the most important.
Once again, Jesper Bratt went into great detail about Timo Meier, but not really himself, because he listed all the things that Timo Meier provides to the team, but he forgot to mention himself a little bit. And maybe I didn't ask the question correctly, but it kind of proves my point in more ways than one, just because, like I said, if Timo Meier's not scoring, what is he doing? He's getting hits. He's doing the dirty work. He's getting underneath the opponent's skin. But if Jesper Bratt's not scoring, what is he doing? Yes, he has good hands, and I'll admit there were a couple times when he was able to set up his teammates nicely. So I think back to Game 5 against the Carolina Hurricanes, when I think he set up Andre Palat on a dime, and he wasn't able to get the assist because Andre Palat wasn't able to finish. So that's my concern for Jesper Bratt, which is I get that he's a good player. I get that he is a good top 6 player, and I get that he could be a good complementary piece. And if this season was any indicator, he definitely knows how to remain somewhat consistent. But at the same time, it's just like, what more can he provide? Am I missing something? So that's one of the things that I want to plant inside your head, which is Jesper Bratt, great scorer, great at putting up some solid productive numbers. But when it comes to the other stuff, when it comes to doing the dirty work, when it comes to like defensive point shares, hits, blocks, faceoffs, whatever the case might be, that is not in Jesper Bratt's repertoire, respectfully. And once again, not trying to diminish him as a player. I'm just bringing to the light saying that sometimes his playing style is one-dimensional, and I think this is what's really frustrating about the overall negotiating process, because it's like, I don't think you deserve to be paid more than Nico Hischier, but at the same time, you do deserve your fair share of payment, but it's just a little difficult considering the fact that now you got to add Timo Meier to the mix. Now you got to try to satisfy Jesper Bratt, and now it's just created this huge headache. And I know that Tom Fitzgerald said back in segment 1 that he has no concern about the negotiating process, and I would like to take his word for it. But the problem is like I said, we've been doing this song and dance routine for over a year now. When's it going to happen? And like Jack Hughes also said, you can't say that you want to remain with the Devils organization and yet nothing happened, because once again, he's had his chances to re-sign, because he said in May of last year that he wants to re-sign with the team. He said at the beginning of the year he wants to remain with the team. He said during his exit interviews that he wants to remain with the team. You've had a few opportunities, and I don't know what the negotiating process is like. I don't know what's falling through. I don't know why the sides can't come together. But now that Timo Meier's added to the mix, and I'm sure a lot of people aren't going to entertain this, but Jesper Bratt theoretically could have his rights traded if this negotiation process is not done in a reasonable amount of time. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, we'll talk about that momentarily, but before we continue, I want to tell you about Bird Dogs. So the thing about Bird Dogs is that I look better and feel great while wearing Bird Dogs. So their stretchy fabric makes my legs look great, and they're comfier than my other shorts and pants. They give me the freedom to wear one pair of shorts on the golf course, to a meeting, a date, or hang out with friends. People like me, I live in Arizona. It's always hot. So Bird Dog Shorts definitely helps me in more ways than one. So go to birddogs.com/LockedOnNHL, and when you enter promo code LockedOnNHL, they'll throw in a free custom Bird Dogs Yeti-style tumbler with every order. So once again, if you want to look cool, if you want to look stylish, if you want to beat the heat this summer wherever you live, you need to get yourself hip to Bird Dogs apparel. So get some shorts because their fabric is top-notch and it is great. And now, as you guys know, I'm a big NASCAR fan, and sometimes I like to tinker with my car. So let me tell you about eBay Motors. So for a championship team, it's all about making sure that every player is the perfect fit. It's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So the next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors with eBay Guaranteed Fit. You can be sure that every part fits right. And the first time around, just add your ride to My Garage and look for the green check to know what part will fit or your money back, because like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors. And for over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. Get the right parts, get the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit only. Available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. Okay, what are the options here for Jesper Bratt? Because we can't repeat what we did last season. Now, either way, guys, he's going to be extended a qualifying offer. And for people who are saying that he shouldn't, you are ridiculous. Now, here's the thing. Tom Fitzgerald recently revealed that just because the New Jersey Devils don't have a first-round draft pick doesn't mean that they won't have one. What he means by that is maybe Tom Fitzgerald is going to try to make a splash come draft night to maybe get the Devils back into the first round to get a pick, because once again, they traded away their first round draft pick this year for Timo Meier. Now with Jesper Bratt and his contract negotiations all the more frustrating, the Devils do have some options, and I mentioned it with Timo Meier, because if the playoffs were any indicator, I think Meier has surpassed Jesper Bratt for priority. At least that's my opinion, because Timo Meier has shown that he is the more vital player. He is the more important player. He is the player that can do a lot more than Jesper Bratt. No disrespect to Jesper Bratt, but once again, I did ask Jesper, how did he feel like his skills were being utilized after Timo Meier was added to the mix? I felt like it was sometimes there, sometimes it wasn't. It wasn't a match made in heaven, but it's something you can certainly develop, because once again, Timo Meier was added into the fire rather quickly, and he had to adjust on a fly. Now, with Jesper Bratt, it's just like, I think Jesper has to be aware that the negotiating process, I don't think Fitzgerald is going to drag it out as long as he did last year. And that was one of the questions I didn't get to ask Tom Fitzgerald, because one of the questions I did want to bring into light was that, is there a certain deadline in his head in which he's like, you know what, I don't think we're going to get a deal done. We're going to have to move on, and we're just going to have to find a possible suitor. And the silly season discussions for Jesper Bratt have already made their way around the internet. My buddies over at Pucks and Pitchforks, they've already put out a few discussion points as to which players the Devils could possibly target and try to trade Jesper Bratt. Now, like I said, the big thing is that Tom Fitzgerald revealed that just because the Devils don't have a first-round draft pick, it doesn't mean that they won't get one. And my thing is like, well, when looking at the roster, when looking at who's set to become a restricted free agent, wherever the case might be, I think the only player that could be traded for a first-round draft pick is Jesper Bratt. Now, I'm not saying do a one-for-one type of deal where we trade away Jesper Bratt and get a first-round draft pick. It's going to have to be some sort of package. But at the same time, when looking at who's set to become a restricted free agent, Miles Wood, he's not worth a first-round draft pick. Yegor Sharangovich, I don't think he's worth a first-round draft pick. I don't think the Devils are going to be dumb enough to try to trade away Timo Meier. That wouldn't make much sense. That's basically a rental. I mentioned a couple episodes ago, could it be Mackenzie Blackwood? I personally don't think Mackenzie Blackwood is worth a first-round draft pick in my eyes. And yes, the Devils have a lot of young assets, including like Alexander Holtz, who quite honestly, I was surprised that he was able to make it past the trade deadline. But the thing is, like, why would you trade Alexander Holtz, a player you're trying to get the most out of? Why would you trade him for a first-round draft pick? That doesn't really make much sense. For Alexander Holtz, you want to trade him for a right-away good impact player. So if Alexander Holtz is not really developing the way you want, and same for all these young guys, whether it's like Nolan Foote or whatever the case might be, then wait till the trade deadline so you can get like someone similar as Timo Meier. I don't think he's going to trade away some of the top prospects for a first-round draft pick. I know this is a deep draft class, but that doesn't really make much sense. So I think Tom Fitzgerald is like, look, if this Jesper Bratt thing falls through, maybe we could get a first-round draft pick. Now, once again, it'll have to be some sort of package. I don't think Connor Hellebuck is going to be an option, guys. For anyone who's saying trade Jesper Bratt for Connor Hellebuck, have you learned your lesson about the Corey Schneider fiasco? Because I don't know how many more years Hellebuck can provide good service in between the pipes. And that's not a knock at him, but keep in mind, I think Jesper Bratt has a lot more mileage compared to Hellebuck. So that's something we could definitely assess. And the big question that I'm sure a lot of people have is that can the New Jersey Devils afford both Timo Meier and also Jesper Bratt? The short answer is yes, but they're going to have to get creative. So when looking at the salary cap situation, once again, for the New Jersey Devils, Jack Hughes is signed long-term. Nico Hischier is signed long-term. Andre Palat signed long-term. Then you got Tomas Tatar. He's set to become an unrestricted free agent. That's $4.5 million off the books. Miles Wood is a UFA as well, $3.2 million off the books. Eric Haula most likely will be re-signed to a cheap, maybe 2 to 3 year deal. Damon Severson will become a unrestricted free agent, $4.16 million off the books. Ryan Gray's unrestricted free agent, $3.16 million off the books. The Devils can afford both Meier and Bratt. They're just going to have to be creative. Now, the big question, and I basically hyped up this entire segment to give you guys my overall opinion on this situation. What should the New Jersey Devils do with Jesper Bratt? What does his future look like? Should they trade him? And what are my expectations? Well, I'd say Jesper Bratt, given how optimistic Tom Fitzgerald is, I think he'll remain with the New Jersey Devils once again. He will be extended a qualifying offer, and obviously you can use him as collateral if you're unable to get a deal done. Maybe you can try to trade him away for some sort of player, because I think that's going to be a win-win either way for New Jersey Devils, because they could get a first-round draft pick and maybe a player who has a lot of upside. I don't really know, not the GM, but that's worst case scenario. I'm not even thinking about that, but definitely we'll talk about it in a future episode. I don't think a trade will happen, but it could. But I think Jesper Bratt can resign with the New Jersey Devils organization. He might have to take a pay cut, though. So going back to what James Nichols said back in November, saying that Jesper Bratt could be paid annually $8 million. Well, like I said early on in the episode, a lot has happened since then. Now you got to factor in Timo Meier. You got to factor in Jesper Bratt's poor playoff performance during the playoffs. So I don't think that $8 million, I think it's going to go down to $7 million at most. Can you convince Jesper Bratt to re-sign long-term and get paid anywhere from $6.5 million to $7 million? Because I think that's what Jesper Bratt is worth. And you also have to factor in that Timo Meier also needs to get paid. So you need to make room in that sort of aspect. You need to make that sort of wiggle room. And before we sign off, I want to provide you guys a soundbite once again from Jonas Siegenthaler, because here's what Siegenthaler had to say when he signed long-term, but for a much cheaper deal.
Jonas, you signed a long extension last season. What's your message to guys like Timo and Bratter, in terms of just building something here and wanting to resign here?
Yeah, I mean, I want to stay here because I feel like we have a bright future here. I think, soon something is going to happen big in here, and I believe in it. That's why I signed long-term here. I hope Timo and Bratter believe that too, and I hope they're going to be here long-term as well.
Jonas Siegenthaler will become an unrestricted free agent at the end of the 2027-2028 season. And right now he is going to be paid annually $3.4 million. So that's a very good deal for one of our shutdown defensemen. And I think Jesper Bratt needs to do the same thing, because he needs to know what affects the whole and not the individual. Because at the end of the day, the Devils are trying to build something special. And don't you want to be a part of that? That's my thing, because you're going to have to make some sacrifices in order to satisfy everyone. And similar to what Jack Hughes said, you can't be going around town saying you want to resign, you want to resign, you want to finish what you started. Sign it right now, dude. Like, what's holding you back? That's my thing. I don't really want to speculate. However, it's quite interesting that Tom Fitzgerald and Jesper Bratt are both saying that Jesper Bratt's agent is trying to negotiate a new deal and the two parties are trying to come together. Whereas if you listen to someone like Eric Halla, he's literally going to Tom Fitzgerald himself saying, hey, let's get a new deal done. And Eric Halla is even saying he's waiting for a personal phone call from Fitzgerald to try to hammer out this new deal so that way Eric Halla can remain on the Devils roster. Whereas for Jesper Bratt, it's like, why are you allowing your agent to do most of the negotiating process? Because this is the third time in 4 years in which Jesper Bratt doesn't have a new contract going into the new year. And that's a little problematic. So, like I said, I can't really speculate and I can't really discuss this matter in great detail because I don't know what happens behind closed doors, but just based on what I'm inferring from Tom Fitzgerald and Jesper Bratt, it seems like the agent is doing most of the negotiating process. If I'm Jesper Bratt, you got to intervene and you got to just try to step up and say, like, look, I'm going to try to negotiate the deal myself, or I'm going to do most of the talking, because obviously when I leave it up to you, it doesn't seem like we're able to come close to a deal, and we're putting this matter behind the 8 ball even more, and it's creating a wedge between me and my teammates. Or at least I'm just going based on what Jack Hughes said in his soundbite, because Jack Hughes is obviously one of the leaders of the New Jersey Devils roster, so I'm sure he's speaking on behalf of the team when he's saying, like, look, you can't just say you want to remain with the Devils organization and not get that extension. So if I'm Jesper Bratt, you probably want to do most of the negotiating process yourself. And as always, have your agent there to help you out. But it just seems like when you leave it up to your agent, it just seems like greed is coming into a factor. But like I said, that's just all speculation on my end. It's definitely a long negotiating process. I know Tom Fitzgerald is optimistic about it, but my thing is simply this, which is try to get it done ASA now and try to avoid the drama. But I think the Devils can sleep well at night knowing that they can either re-sign both Meier and Bratt long-term, or if something falls through, they can trade Bratt for maybe a sizable player that has a lot of impact, or whatever the case might be, or try to get back into the first round. Like I said, not 1-for-1 type of trade for Jesper Bratt for a first-round draft pick, some sort of trade package, but that's down the line, and I don't think that will realistically happen. But just throwing some ideas out there. So let me know what you guys think. What do you think about this whole ordeal with Jesper Bratt, this whole brouhaha type of a situation in which Jesper Bratt still does not have anything in the works at the time being, and it feels like that we've been, once again, seeing this same story pan out for like over a year. Here's your guys' thoughts. So if you're watching on YouTube, leave a comment down below. If you're listening on podcast streaming service, hit me up on my personal Twitter page at TreyMatt4 or the show's Twitter page at Locked On Devils. As for today's episode, that's all the time I have for you. So continue to stay safe. Have a wonderful day in New Jersey. Go Devils. I'll catch you guys in the next episode. Thanks for listening once again.